All right, so I let it dry a bit. It's still a little wet, but it's a little dry. I let it be for a little bit. And so let me just go back and summarize what I just did. I just kind of did a rough block in. So I started with my mid-tone, and I mixed some of and I wanted the mid-tone to be on the cooler side. So for me to green is a cooler tone, but I can make green warmer by adding some of my yellows or my yellow ochre, my cad red light. So you can make greens warmer by adding, some of the warmer colors. But I wanted the mid-tone to be a little bit on the cooler side, not like to the point of, in the middle, a mid-tone, something in the middle, so I can navigate either way with it. So I mixed some of the sap green, I mixed some of the ultramarine blue, and I did add some of this cadmium yellow medium to lighten and play with it a little bit. And it kind of gave me a bluish tone because of the ultramarine blue in the mixture. It gave me a more bluish tone of mid-tone green. And then what I did is I made it darker. So I added, I love mixing alizarin crimson with a sap green to get a dark, but I wanted that dark to be, the alizarin crimson and the sap green make a beautiful, dark, deep, brownish color. But I wanted it to be on the cooler side. So I went in and mixed in some of the ultramarine blue as well. So I used that dark to add dark to the areas where I think the dark is going to be. All right. I'm doing a lot of memory here. So I'm making decisions based on what I think is going to happen in nature. So I know that the grass is beneath everything here. Everything is laying on the grass. So there's going to be a lot of shadow happening, a lot. So I just kind of started with just an outline around all the body area, the leaves, the floral area. And then I went back in, I added some of the viridian because it's a nice, cool, bluish, greenish color. And I kind of blocked some of that in. And I even went back in with my mid-tone to just kind of put it all together. So now what I have is just a very rough block in. There's no detail, just a block in. And what I can do now, let me back up. What I find when I need information, I need to get something down. I need to block something in. So I just kind of block in a mid-tone. I didn't do any light, but I did a mid-tone and a dark, just blocking it in, putting it where I think it's going to be. So now I have information. I have something to look at, and I have something to gauge to see if I did it right. I don't know if I did it right until I actually do it. So now what am I seeing here? I'm seeing shadow because it's going to be dark up in here. I'm seeing some depth start to emerge from here. And so now I'm going to focus on individual sections, and I'm going to start building more depth, more texture. Texture meaning I'm going to start adding some marks to give the impression that there's grass. For me to do that, I need to play around a bit because grass it varies. You've got grass that stick up a little bit more. You got grass that's underneath. You got grass that's smushed down. You got grass that sticks straight up. You got grass kind of tangled in other grass. You've got grass that is on top of grass. you've got all this depth going on here. And at the end, at the way bottom is the dirt, right? And in some cases, the sun, because the sky, right, is in influence. We said the sky is influencing everything that's going on in here because the model is laying down and the sky is literally like right here, shining down on this entire composition. So I need to also take that. So a little bit of light is going to peek through some of these darker areas in shadow. We're going to see some light. So let's do something. I'm going to zoom in to a section here. So we're just going to focus. I'm going to focus right here. Just going to zoom into a section here. And I've got, you see the dark, right? Because there's a leaf that's going to go here. This is the hair shape. And then this is the shoulder. And then there's another leaf over here. So we're just going to focus on this section right here. And make sure you can see it. I'm going to lighten it up a bit. There you go. Okay. So what do I want to do here? I just got just a round brush. I'm not going to pick up any really small, tiny brushes right now. I'm still in this kind of exploratory phase. And I'm zoomed in, so I don't have view of my palette here. But I'm just going to tell you exactly what I'm going to be doing. So I'm just going to go in the beginning, and I'm going to take some of the cadmium yellow light and mix it with the sap green, and I'm just going to go in, and I want to get a little bit lighter, so I'm going to add a little bit more of the cadmium yellow light, and I'm just going to start tapping. I'm going to keep the shadow areas, but I'm just going to start tapping in. I'm not going to fill it up completely. So I'm going to, my brush stroke, I want you to see the brush. I'm just kind of tapping. So the tapping is just helping with the texture. And another thing I don't want is I don't want any hard lines. So I'm going to smooth. I'm going to go back in with my dark, which is ultramarine blue. I'm going to mix the ultramarine blue and the Viridian. And I'm just going to tap just to darken. But I want to make sure these lines here are going to be soft as well. I don't want any hard lines. Even my blades of grass are going to be a little bit softer in nature. I'm not going to make these hard stick lines. I'm going to try to keep the shapes soft, all right, because this is farther away. So a lot of it's, when we look at it in real life, it's going to be a little bit blurred. So if you can see here, what I did was I've got dark around the edges, and it's got a little mid-tone going on there. So what I want to do is I want to play with temperature right now, and I'll play with some warm and cool colors to create some texture. So right now it's primarily cool. So I'm going to get warm. I'm going to go in with some yellow ochre, and I'm going to add, I've got the cerulean blue here. So I'm going to add some of the cerulean blue and a little bit of the red. Let me see if I can bring my palette here into the screen here. So I want to get a little warmer here. So what I'm doing is I'm mixing some of the cadmium red, the yellow ochre, and I went in with the cerulean blue. And if you notice, it's a little warmer than what's happening here. Now, it's not particularly green. I'm going to give it a little bit of the sap green, but it doesn't. And I'm just going to do some tapping, if you can notice there. I'm going to tap some warmth in there. And I'm just going to go in with a little bit of the cadmium red. I just added a little bit on my brush. And I'm just going to do some tapping, not all over, but just adding small instances of a warmer tone. And if you notice what happens, let me try to get even, I'm going to hike up the chroma there. So hiking up the chroma is this. I'm getting brighter, right? And what do you see happening here? And I know it's not clear. Let me see if I can get, but what do you see that's happening when I add the red, just red out the tube onto this little section here? You're starting to see some depth here, right? Red and green are the opposites of the color wheel. So they're going to react with each other, right? They're going to complement each other, right? One's going to kind of stand out and bring one out. You know, when you put them both together, they kind of, the red really stands out or the green really stands out. So if you notice, the red is starting to kind of come forward. And that's what we did was we have a cooler base, and now we're adding some warmth on top of that. And that's starting to push outward. Now I don't want it to necessarily look like that. I'm going to wipe my brush. So I'm going to mix some more green. I'm mixing my ultramarine blue with yellow ochre. And I'm just going to knock this down a bit. I don't want the red, the brightness of the red. I just want some texture to happen there. I'm just kind of moving that around a bit. Adding some texture. I'm going to kind of scroll back out here so you can see it. Let me straighten up here. And it's still not like, oh my God, I can see it. But right now I'm just kind of focused right on the base. I need some more sap green here. Find my sap green. Here we go. Okay. So I don't need to get caught up in any type of detail right now, but I'm just going to add some more sap green to my palette here. But I'm just going to go in and just make some marks here. So if you notice, it's pretty dark. The value is pretty dark. And this is kind of like my base. And if you think about it, in your base of grass, you would have some earthy tones happening in there because you've got the dirt. And dirt is very earthy. You've got earthy reds and oranges that make up the dirt area. But I want to start adding some texture. So I'm going to go in. I've got this permanent green light, and I'm just going to start adding just some marks in that area. And I'm going to add them in different directions. And they may be two, if you can see. Let me scroll in, get closer here so you can see it. There we go. Move my camera here. There we go. And I'm going to start kind of building up texture. And I was just using the permanent green light right out the tube. And I'm just adding some texture. Now, I'm not going to get too detailed right now because the detail is going to come later. I'm going to mix some of the cadmium yellow light with the sap green here. And I'm just going to make some marks here. Right? And you're starting to see some texture. I'm going to get really dark. I'm going to go in with my Viridian and Ultramarine Blue. And again, I'm going to add some marks there. So you start seeing some texture evolve from that. And I'm going to keep it pretty loose right now. I'm not getting too detailed, because I'll add the detail later on when I have some leaves and all the other stuff going on. But I'm just sitting here creating some depth. And it's pretty it's pretty flat right now. It's not, I'm not going to start painting in blades of grass right now. I'm just going to go in with a cooler, I added some white, and I'm just going to go in and just kind of make some little tick marks, little areas there. And let's scroll it back to kind of take a look. And that's one area there. Let me straighten out and I'm stepping back to look at it, and I'm like, it's pretty dark. And I'd like to have a little bit more of a vibrant green in there. So I'm going to take my cadmium yellow light and some of the sap green, and I'm just going to add a little bit more vibrancy in there with that mixture. And it kind of gives me more of a yellow-green color. And there I just kind of brightened it up just a bit. So I'm just kind of tapping, I'm making marks. I'm not going to take out the really small brush and do these detailed, grass, blades of grass right now. Later on, I might do that, because I might have some grass like kind of touching over, overlapping over some of the leaves or some of the body or the hair area. So I will kind of focus on that later. I'm going to go in with some dark, just add some. So it's the play on the value, temperature, and chroma that helps develop I'm just mixing my dark again, helps develop the depth. And I'm just going back in and just kind of blocking in the areas where I think the shadow would be. I'm going to try to get even darker here. Just kind of add just little tick marks of dark in certain areas. So they really shows if you see that, it really, really kind of pushes this back and brings this area forward. The shoulder, the hair. And so forth. All right, so I'm going to keep going. I'm going to speed up the camera here, and I'm going to keep going around the all my little green shapes, playing around with texture, playing around. But really what I want you to I'm just going to play around with the texture. I'm not in a final state, and I will go back in with another layer of that. But what I'm really trying to achieve is this shadow shape here. So you're seeing that there's a distinction of, you can see that the grass is down here and then this is coming forward. That's really my goal. And I'll play around with color and texture around there. So I'm going to work the entire rest of the canvas doing the same thing, and then we'll come back to have a discussion on where we go from there. All right, so I just did a good, I call this my rough block-in. And I call it that because I'm not really focused on detail. I'm not focused on, what I'm just focused on is developing what the viewer is supposed to see. So I'm trying to develop the depth, right? Develop so that the viewer knows that that's, they don't need to know that that's grass right this second, but they need to know that it is farther, it is in the back, it's setting back, and that the rest of all the other elements are on top of this element, right? This thing on the canvas. So I don't necessarily need to say this is grass right now, because that means I'm going to be focusing on detail. And I don't really want to focus on detail right this second. What I do want to focus on is creating the depth of field, right? And it doesn't have to be these detailed blades of grass. I might even keep them slightly blurry when I'm ready to start finalizing the grass shapes, or I'm ready to start giving the viewer the dialogue that, yes, that is grass, not just green patches. But right now, I'm just in this blocking in phase. And in this phase 2, I'm in a phase of just blocking in and making sure that the story is correct value-wise. Am I getting the story right? Is the viewer seeing what they're supposed to be seeing, right? Is the viewer seeing that the grass is pushed back? Is the viewer going to see that this body is laying on top of that green, those green patches? Is the viewer going to notice that now the leaves and the flowers are sitting on top of the body and the grass? That's what I'm trying to achieve. So I'm going to step back. I'm going to take a photo of this. Another thing I just want to finalize at this moment is, okay, are my grass shapes, are they sufficient? Do I need to add more grass shapes? Am I happy with the grass shapes? Am I happy with the shape of, the rest of the composition, right? Because right now these are all shapes. And I'm happy with, I see some of the depth starting to evolve and starting to come into play. So my next step is to start blocking in other areas of the body, the flowers, and the leaves. So I think what I like to do is I like to get the face blocked in. I like to start with the face, and then I like to start with the body and the arms, and then I'll go into leaves and flowers. So I'm going to step it back a bit, and I'm going to return to, like I did last month, and I'm going to return to focusing on the individual features of the face. And in this coming week, every day, we're going to focus on the eyes, the nose, and the mouth, and how to paint these features of the face. And then on Friday, we'll come together and we'll put it all onto the canvas and block in those shapes in the face area. Because I think it would be really helpful to get an understanding and feel for the shapes of the, understanding the individual shapes that are going on, so that you understand how to block in the skin tone and the color in the face area. All right, so I'm happy. I'm not going to push it forward. I'm happy with where this is right now. I'm going to take a photo of it. I'm going to just kind of evaluate, analyze, and then I will see you tomorrow.